Tracy. I'm wearing this pretty awesome Deadpool shirt. It's pretty great. Seen Deadpool like a lot of times and he's awesome. So, wasn't expecting to film today, but I got inspired by this video because my friend Dimitri commented on why Super Friends video talking about EDH and was like, I really want to build your Omnath deck, but you have an Omnath deck, and like I don't want to copy your deck. And this is really, really interesting how I feel like for the most part with EDH decks, it's not really something that you necessarily like net deck. It's not really something that you see someone else's deck and you're like, I definitely copy that. I mean, you know what's interesting is like back a while ago I was browsing the MTG Top 8 website, and I saw that there is a spot for Commander because there are big competitive tournaments. So if you're like, I really want to build this super competitive deck, I'm gonna net deck. But something that I found is that I feel like the majority of people like don't really, like, at least for my local game store, from what I've seen, don't really do that. Like, they kind of just have their decks, and then their decks are just kind of, like, sweet. And yeah, there's some EDH cards that kind of, like, go in that are, like, no-brainers. Like, yeah, I'm gonna put in, like, Wood Elves, or, like, Farhaven Elf for, like, Solemn Simulacrum, or, like, Temple of the False God, or, like, things like that, like, EDH staples. But for the most part, I feel like people, like, add their own, like, creative twists in EDH decks, which, I mean, is what makes it fun, and what makes it sweet. And I remember I was also saying that I've been thinking about building a Bant deck for a while. But my problem is that, like, my friend Krista has a Bant deck, and she does this sweet thing, like, her deck's, like, a blink deck, so it, like, it's awesome. It runs, like, flicker cards, and then it's, like, flicker, like, ETB things. It's kind of, like, Brago, kind of, like, when you deal combat damage, you just, like, blink all your creatures. It's kind of like that. It's like a super sweet deck, and it's really, really awesome, and I was like, yo, like, I really like the color combination of Bant, like, that's definitely something I could see myself doing. But I don't want to copy her deck. I don't want to do something that, like, she does. Because, like, I feel like my deck would just be very similar because she runs a lot of cards that I also like Avenger of Zendikar, Acidic Slime, Flicker Wisp, like, Sun Titan, like, cool things like that I'm just like, I just don't want to run those cards because you run those cards. And I don't want to be like, I'm taking over your deck. And, like, maybe some people feel, like, more comfortable with that. Maybe some people are just like, yeah, like, I have no problem. Like, someone else has this commander. I'm also gonna make this commander. But I feel like, for the most part at my local game store, from what I'm thinking about it, people don't really have, like, the same commanders because they kind of, like, respect, like, oh, we're not gonna, like, step on your turf. You're gonna, like, do your own thing. And I think that's really cool. I think that's really awesome because it allows people who have decks to kind of just, like, you know, do their own thing. Like, I remember I was planning on building Omnath for the longest time. Like, ever since Omnath came out, I was like, I'm gonna build an Omnath deck. And then a bunch of people from the local game store built Omnath decks, like, say, like, a month later. So it's like, okay, that's cool. I'm not copying anyone's deck. I've thought about having this deck for a while. I just never got the cards for it to build it. Same thing with Super Friends. My friend Spencer just built Super Friends, but I've been talking about this deck for, like, months. Documented proof on my YouTube channel. Documented proof that I've talked about this deck for months. That I've been planning on building this deck. I couldn't tell you where in my videos, but there is proof that I've talked about Super Friends before. Yeah, but I feel like the really cool thing about EDH, though, is that, like, you know, it allows you, like, so much freedom to do, like, whatever you want, and I think that's super awesome. Like, I feel like EDH is such a cool outlet format because you can just do, like, these crazy jank things that, like, you can't do in other formats. Yes, Modern has, like, broken stuff. Yes, Legacy has broken stuff. Like, there's dumb things, but, like, EDH is just the place where you can just play, like, all the cool things, and I think that's really awesome. Like, I just think that's, like, super cool. And that's how I've always felt like it is. It's such a creative outlet. And what I really love about the deck, too, is that it's always changing, and I think that's awesome. Like, I have some of you guys, like, comment on some of my old videos, and you're like, huh, Tracy, like, you know, why do you play this card? And I'm like, wow, I don't play that card anymore. Like, it's actually, like, really funny. I was reading, like, comments and someone was commenting on my Omnath deck that I don't even know when I filmed that deck tech. My deck has changed since then, and it's gotten better, and, like, they were like, why do you run this card? And I was like, I don't run that card anymore. But I'm like, but you guys don't know that? But I know that, but you guys don't. And I think it's, like, really funny. So I was, like, thinking about that, and I was like, I was like, I gotta, like, I don't know. Like, I gotta do an updated deck tech of that, because the deck has changed. And, oh my gosh, that deck is so sweet. The deck's really awesome. And something, too, that's really cool about that deck is my deck's like under 100. But it's so awesome and it's so sweet and it's like so much fun. I have such a great time playing that deck. It's like one of my favorites. Yeah. And again, like I think too with what I do when I build EDH decks, and this is how I mean, I haven't, with Super Friends, it's different, I'll talk about that in a minute, but like with decks, what I would do is I would look at like a bunch of people's decks, and like when I say that, I don't mean like I looked at MTG Top 8 and looked at like super competitive decks, especially like Tasigur, because Tasigur is like one of the top like EDH commanders for competitive reasons, and I didn't look at anything like that, but I looked at like a bunch of random people's, like, you know, not anyone who's like, I top did something with this deck, like, I just looked at random people's decks and said like, huh, okay, cool, what cards are good in here? And then if I saw like a card being repeated like on 5 people's list, I was like, okay, the card must be really good, I definitely want to put it in my deck. Yeah, and like with Super Friends, though, Super Friends was really, really interesting because I didn't really look at anyone's deck lists at all, actually, to make it, which is really interesting. I kind of just put, like, what's really cool about Super Friends is that I'm doing 5-color, which is awesome because I get all the toys, and I'm, like, literally anything I want. And when I was talking to Spencer about it, we were actually talking and saying how, like, the deck's, like, super interesting because, there's so many possible outlets, there's so many things to do in 5-color, which is why I think it's such an interesting color combination, but not a lot of people do 5-color decks. So if you're like in the market looking for like a new EDH deck, try a 5-color deck. You can do whatever you want, and I think that's super cool. The mana base is the weirdest thing you'll ever do, I will admit. It's such a weird thing, like even Kiki Court of Modern that could be like 4 or 5 colors, the deck's like, the mana base is like the weirdest thing, but it's so fun. And that's what I think is super cool about Super Friends. Like, I didn't look at anyone's deck lists for that. I kind of just like, what I did is I took like a bunch of cards that I knew in EDH that were good. Especially for multicolor decks because Tasigur's tricolor, and I just realized that that's my only, that's weird. Looking at my EDH decks, because I have 2 monocolor decks. I have, Angels and Yisan. I've been even thinking about taking Yisan apart, which makes me sad because I really like that deck. I just don't play it enough. I don't know. I want to keep it though for now because I have like no reason to take it apart. There's like no reason for me to do that, but yeah. So anyways, so that deck, and then I had Angels, and then my 2-color decks I have Keranos and Omnath, and my 3-color decks I have Tasigur, which is weird because I feel like I should totally have another 3-color deck. I feel like I totally should. But anyways, so I took like cards that I knew were good. I have like a variety of colors, so I was like, okay. I took what cards I knew were good. Cards that are good in like multicolored, like things like Chromatic Lantern. And how I got actually the majority of my cards for this deck is actually really sweet. I was trading cards with my friend Nate. He actually like had Super Friends for a while. So he had the deck had the deck together, but just cards were pulled apart from it. So I had like a Jace, the flip Jace, and Jace, when I got rid of him, was like 70 at the time. Now I have no idea what price he is. I think he's like 20 or something like that. So I had like Jace, and I got rid of Jace, and then I got rid of something else. So I think like totaled up, like he wanted like about $100 worth of cards. So I was like, $100 worth of cards, I was like, all these cards that I need from Super Friends. And so I basically pulled through his deck, and of course I didn't take all the cards. 1, because the trade wouldn't have balanced out, but 2, because I didn't want to take all the cards that he put. But like I took like really good cards, like I got a doubling season out of it, which was awesome. Looking at that, super good value. Trading a Jace for doubling season, oh man, major value right there. I did that, and then I just got like, I don't even know, like a bunch of, I got like some Planeswalkers, and then just some cards that he ran and stuff like that. And yeah, but like, when I was building it, I know I said that normal thing that I do, I look at a bunch of people's deck lists. I didn't really do that. I like did it a little bit. I looked at like, I think like 2 or 3 people's deck lists, but I just kind of was like, yeah, I'm like gonna kind of go from here. I think that's like really cool. It's just kind of like, you know, building decks. And like the Planeswalkers, how I did that is I just looked through all the Planeswalkers and I was like, okay, which ones are gonna be good? Which ones are gonna be really good in this? And even like that, like there's a lot of variations in how many Super Friends you run and which ones you run. Because there's some that's like, you know, some that some people run, like someone commented and said Ugin, Karn I know is a popular one, but Karn's also $50 and I'm not gonna spend that on a magic card for EDH. For Modern I will, for EDH I won't. Unless it's like through trades. Trades is like totally different. So yeah. Yeah. What else was I gonna say? I'm trying to think if there are any like other stories that I can think of people like net decking or like something like that. There's this kid that I play Magic with. His name's Andy. I don't know if he's watching this actually. Maybe, who knows? But he changes EDH decks a lot. Like, he started out, I don't remember what, like, he first had, but he built Gitrog, and he's someone who, like, he'll see other people's EDH decks, and he's like, that deck seems really cool, I want to also do that. He doesn't build their exact deck, he just, like, takes inspiration from that, and builds EDH decks. And I think that's, like, totally cool. I just think everyone's really different with how they pull inspiration from for decks, and I think that's, like, really cool. Everyone gets it from somewhere. That was it. That was all I got. Let me know what you guys do. What's your process for building decks? I mean, I've done a video on talking about like how to build EDH decks, like how I go about my process and stuff. You can check that out. If I remember, I'll put it in the description bar. But yeah, that's it. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.